Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, Oxide Magic, and it's Jordan here, and it's time for another Deck Tech Tuesday. And this one, ladies and gentlemen, has been inspired by a good friend, Young Mage, over on his other channel, because he mentioned that he loves werewolves. Yes, my man. Now, I'm also a big fan of the wolves and the werewolves of Innistrad, and I am currently, this is my standard deck that I do run. This is heavily based off of Wedge's mono green werewolf list, but it has been modified and to add in certain little bits of flavour and packets from Kaladesh, and obviously Aether Revolt. So, let's get straight to it. Let's jump in with the creatures, and on the 1-drop slot, we have 3 Kessig Prowlers. It is a fantastic little creature, great 2-1, good turn 1 drop, and obviously if you get it transformed into a 4-4, you can either pay for the 5 mana cost, but there are ways and spells that we do have in, as we'll discuss later, of getting it transformed for the cheap. Obviously it becomes a sinuous predator, and it can't be blocked by more than one creature, and it is a 4-4, so it does get rather useful later on. It also, you can transform as a combat trick, and it is also good. We then jump straight into the 2-drop slots, so that is it for 1-drops, because this is mono green as well. We then move on to having 3 Lambholt Pacifist. It is a 3-3 for 2 mana, but it can't attack unless you control a creature with power 4 or greater. That does include itself. And at the beginning of each upkeep, no spells are cast last turn, you get to transform it and it becomes a 4-4. And vice versa, if then a player casts 2 or more spells, it gets to transform back. Also in the 2-drop slot, we are running a 4-off of Duskwatch Recruiter. He's a 2-2 human warrior werewolf, of course, and he also has the transform ability if no spells are cast. But you have the benefit of an ability, which is for 2 and a green. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, reveal a creature card among them, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library. It's good filtering, it's decent sort of card draw if you're at the opponent's turn step. It's rather good. If you do manage to transform it, it then becomes the Shrill Howler, and creature spells cost 1 less to cast, and then the same transform ability, you know, 2 more spells and transforms back. But when it's in its Shrill form, it gets rather interesting. We then move swiftly onto the 3-drop slots, and now this is where we've got quite a few of our creatures in this. To begin off, we have a 2-off of Shrill Howler. I'm only running a 2-off because I found that I was running more and they were getting removed quite easily. So I dropped it down to 2 and put other extra things in. He's a wolf horror, he's a 3-1. He can't be blocked by creatures with less power than it. And you can pay 5 and a green to transform it. Or as I say, you'll see some spells that transform it for free. And then it becomes the Howling Chorus, which creatures with a power less than it can't block it, and it's a 3-5 as standard. And when it deals combat damage to a player, you get to put a 3-2 Colorless Eldrazi Horror creature token onto the battlefield. That is untapped, so it can act as a blocker, or you can just use it as another body to swing. We then move on to having a full playset of 4-off of Silverfur Partisan. This is a wolf warrior, he's a 2-2, he's a 2 and a green. He has trample as natural. Whenever a wolf or a werewolf you control becomes the target of an instant and sorcery, you get to put a 2-2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield. So they target it with removal, or a werewolf with removal, you get a wolf. You target it with something defensive, you get a wolf. But it has to be the creature has to be a target of a spell. It doesn't work for a blanket spell. That's the only thing you've got to remember. We then move on to Spirit of the Hunt. We have a 3-off of this. It is a 3-3 wolf spirit. It has flash, which is very important to remember. When it enters the battlefield, each other creature you control that's a wolf or a werewolf gets a +0/+3 until the end of turn. You can use this to save guys from board wipes, well, from damage board wipes, not from exile effects or anything like that. You can flash them in at a turn. You can flash them in as block, from doing a big swing and they block awkwardly. You can then remove some of their creatures or trade up. Rather sweet. It works out rather well. We then move on to the last of our creatures, which is in the 4-drop slot, and we run a 4-off of Pack Guardian. This is a 2 and a 2 green, and it's a wolf spirit again, and it's a 4-3 with flash, and when it enters the battlefield you may discard a land card, and if you do, you get a 2-2 wolf token. Rather sweet. Even if you don't have the land to discard, I do find that when you're playing this deck, more than not, you'll have one of these in hand and you don't have a land to spare. Occasionally you do, but even flashing it is as a surprise blocker, or flashing it end step to swing for 4 damage, it can make the difference. It is rather sweet. Right, so that was it for spells. For creatures. We now move on to the spells. In the 1-drop slot, we run a 3-off of Blossoming Defense. This is a single green instant. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gets hexproof. Sweet, fantastic. It's Ranger's Guile +1, and I love it. And it literally sees out the early game quite nicely. Keeps things off the board. Keeps things on the board. Sorry. Can get that bit of extra damage through. In fact, I've actually used this to pump up a wolf twice and kill a torrential Gale Hulk, which was rather interesting because I got 2 wolves out of the deal because I had a partisan on the board at the same time, which is rather sweet. Moving on to the 2-drop slots, this is where the majority of our spells lie. We have 2 off of Larger Than Life. It's 1 and a green. Target creature gets +4/+4 on trample. Early game, this deck is all about getting early damage in, and it is fantastic. It does the job quite nicely. This spell's really good. Giving it +4/+4 can generally get out of range of a lot of spells, which is rather sweet. We then move on to have a full play set of 4-off of Moonlight Hunt. This is 1 and a green. It's an instant again. Choose a target creature you don't control. Each creature you control that's a wolf or a werewolf deals damage equal to its power to that creature. This comes in handy as early removal, but it also gets around tricky things such as death touch blockers and various things like that. So generally a good spell all in all. The last spell that we have in our 2-drop slot is a 3-off of Waxing Moon. This is the transformation spell that I was talking about. So for 1 and a green, it's an instant. You can transform to 1 target werewolf you control. Creatures you control gain trample to it. So you can either use this as a late game, transform something, everything gets trample. Or you can use it as a combat trick. I have used it as an early game combat trick to transform a Kessig Prowler into a 4/4 and remove a nice blocker. Definitely worth it in that sense. So a 3-off of that. The last spell we run off is a 3-off of Howlpack Resurgence. It's a 2 and a green, it's an enchantment with flash, and each creature you control that's a wolf or a werewolf gets +1/+1 and gains trample. Very useful late game, early game. It depends where depends on your opponent you're going up against. Control players don't want this on the field because it pumps up your guys. There's lots of benefits to having it. You can flash it in. I mean, it's just, all in all, it's an amazing sort of thing. So, lands we run as simple as this: 23 forests. That's it. You don't need anything else fancy, and that's it, as cheap as it gets. We then go on to the sideboard. And to begin with, 1 new card I run from Aether Revolt is a 3-off of Heroic Intervention. This is to go up against your board wipes, giving things hexproof and indestructible. Obviously, this is not getting around exile effects, so things like a Descend Upon the Sinful as a board wipe will still get rid of your stuff. So you've got to utilise this at the right time for the right things. We then have a 2-off of Aim High. It is an instant for 1 and a green. And you can untap target creature, +2/+2, and gains reach. This is good for taking out pesky flyer decks and spirits and various things like that. Especially as your creatures will be tapped out. And there you go. Oh, sweet. I can swing through. And then you surprise this as a good block. We then run a 3-off of Takedown. It's a single green sorcery. And you can choose to do one, which is either deals 4 damage to target creature with flying, or Takedown deals 1 damage to each creature with flying. So you can either choose a single target, or you can choose multiple targets with flying and deal 1 damage to them. So it's generally used against the spirits deck and token flyers and various things like that. We then run a 2-off of Commencement of Festivities. That's for 1 and a green. It's an instant, prevent all combat damage that will be dealt to players this turn. This is to go up against the red-white Mardu aggro vehicle strategy, or whatever the meta is that is being run. Generally, for an aggressive deck, you want that build. We then have a 3-off of Appetite of the Unnatural. It's 2 and a green. It's an instant, destroy target artifact or enchantment, and you gain 2 life. So useful all round. And the last two spells that we have in our sideboard is Clip Wings. It's for 1 and a green. It's an instant, and each opponent sacrifices a creature with flying. So this is, again, it attacks the Flyers deck. It used to be my answer to Emrakul at the time, but I have found it is still quite useful, especially with some control players who've run Avacyn and various things, strategies like that. It could be, out of all the sideboard cards, I would say that that is probably the weakest one, probably to get removed, because especially in the mass blue-white flash deck, they tend to run a lot of spirits. But you can do some quite interesting things, you know, making them sack things on the end of their end step is rather sweet, and go from there. So anyway, guys, this one was for you, young mage. Take with it, run with it, improve it. Get back to me. I'm sure that you on Papa Mage, I'm sure the people in the comment section can show me where I'm going wrong with this deck, and just to get me up, boosted up a little bit better. This deck has run me quite solidly at FNM. You know, I tend to get sort of rank in top 8 with it, sort of thing. You know, some weeks I do better, some weeks I don't. But I hope you enjoyed this deck tech. Please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and please remember that we are running our 131 subscriber giveaway. The video will be on the end. Please click it, go to it. Remember to comment on it, get your name down into the giveaway. We are closing out the 31st of March. And yeah, guys, follow us on Twitter and all the other social media aspects, and all that is in the description box below. So this has been Jordan, signing off. Goodbye.